Hey, Warrior Saints, happy Thursday. Father Chris here. Welcome to our Crucifixional live stream. Glad to have you beautiful people with us. We're going to continue to beat up Haram on the poor Will Smith because there's just too much going on in that story. What led to all of it? As we've been exploring throughout the week, it wasn't just, in my estimation, a joke that Chris Rock told that offended his wife that led to the slap heard around the world. I think there is so much pressure building up in Will's life because of the nature of his marriage with Jada. There was an affair, probably both of them, right, throughout the past few years, and now apparently they're in publicly admitting that they're in an open relationship, an open marriage, which means that they can be sexually intimate with other people who are not their spouse, and that somehow they've agreed to that. And apparently it's already happened on more than one occasion. I don't know their intimate lives, but it's a clear picture that the concept of marriage that the Smith family has in their home is one that is skewed and one that is, it ain't working. And I think that's because Christ is not in the center of that relationship. Now, I don't know, I've never met either one of them. I don't know Jada, her, faith history, but I do know that Will was raised as a Christian. I mean, he says as much, that he at first was struggling with this open marriage idea because of his Christian upbringing. It means he's got a moral code, man. Something's built into him. Whether he still ascribes to it or lives by it is for God to judge. But it's in him, right? He was put in there by his family, I'm sure, at a young age. And now all of a sudden he's confronted with an idea of marriage that goes against that has removed Christ from the equation, right? Like Jada said, that she's not in favor of traditional marriage. She has always been raised or thought of marriage in new and different terms, which led to whatever mess that they're in right now, this poor family. And I think the idea is that Christ has been pulled out of the center of that. Like, remember what Greg was talking about yesterday, when he was talking about St. Nectarios. Even in the hell that he went through and all of the struggles and the persecution that he faced, he found peace in his heart and in his life because Christ was at the center of it. The gospel was at the center of it. He was carrying a cross, right? And I think, I don't mean to sound judgy, but it seems very clear to me that the Smith family does not have Christ in the center of their marriage. Listen to what St. Paul says in the epistle to the Hebrews. Now, it's powerful because he's giving us in one short verse, this is chapter 13:4, one short verse about like the power of marriage. And it's great because he gets in and he gets right out. He says, let marriage be held in honor among all, and let the marriage bed remain undefiled. The word is unstained and pure. Let the marriage bed remain undefiled, for God will judge the adulterers and the immoral, or maybe the immoral and the adulterers. I got it backwards. But you can see what Paul is telling us there. Like, let marriage be held as in honor. Let it have esteem. It is a union between two people that if Christ is in the center of it, if Jesus Christ, the gospel of the cross, crucifixional living, is the glue in between that man and that woman, it will not be a good marriage. It will be a great marriage, right? Like, that's the business. And Paul is saying marriage is not something that can be flippantly, tossed about like a ship lost at sea in a mighty storm. It is something that is sacred, something that has been blessed by God, something that has been brought together by God and held together by Christ himself. And if people can think of marriage like that, I mean, we're not going to see what we saw happen at the Oscars earlier this week, right? Like, you're going to see a marriage that's in a healthier place. Do you understand? A marriage that has God in the center of it, right? If a marriage is crucifixional, it will do fine. If it's not, the Oscars prove to us what happens, right? Like, I'm not judging them, but it's out there on display. You could see it for yourself, make your own judgments, right? Your own decisions. But I think it's pretty clear that Christ was removed from the center of that marriage, which says to us, warrior saints, you better put Jesus in the middle of it, right? If he ain't in the thick of things, it ain't going to work. You're going to find your own Oscars moment, right? Probably some of us have experienced that Oscar moment ourselves. So the bottom line, hold marriage to be something that look, let me go on a quick tangent. Why do you think that the Christian church was so adamantly and forcefully in argument over gay marriage, right? Because, many Christians even said, let it be called a civil union. Fine, we have no problem with that kind of stuff. Let people do what they got to do, but don't call it marriage. Because the word marriage for Christians means something, right? And in this case, leave that one aside, but just as an example, you can see why we're so feisty about it. It's because marriage is something very specific. It is something that is held together by Christ or God. It matters. Paul tells us hold it in the greatest and highest of honor, right? So in the case of the Will Smith and all that kind of stuff, are we doing that in our own lives, in our own marriages, right? For those who are married and someday those who are someday will be married. Like, let your marriage be the highest of honors. Hold it in the greatest of esteem, because it is something that look, you want to talk about crucifixional living. That's our thing, right? Sacrifice of self for the sake of other. Where does that best play itself out? Inside marriage. In fact, marriage has been called even for some the path to the kingdom, because we are called to follow Christ and live crucifixionally. And you do that with the other person, your spouse, right? And those who are married know it's beautiful, but it's also tough. Sometimes it's hard. She crazy. Sometimes you crazy, right? It's a difficult task, and we have to be crucifixional. But if we do this, bro, we are on the path to the kingdom, right? Let me help you. I'm going to tell you, like, seriously, with no arrogance, but just, I'm very blessed with a beautiful marriage. And most of that is because my bride is amazing. But I fight hard, and she fights hard. We work at it every single day. And most of the times it's awesome, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes we have to grind and work through it. We really got to sacrifice. And over the years, I've been married nearly 25 years. I'm sure some of you have been married longer and some less, some not yet at all. But in my time, I have learned a lot of things. God has blessed me with a beautiful bride and some wisdom that he's given me through my mistakes and repenting and moving forward with them. I want to give it to you, because I don't want your marriage to end up like Will and Jada's. I don't want you to be suffering like that. I want you to find, even in the midst of the chaos, like St. Nectarios, Greg talked about yesterday, find that peace. We're going to help you, and so many of us need it. I mean, look, I do too. I'm fighting through it too. But so many of us need this crucifixional life. When you visit warriorsaints.org and you subscribe to our library, The Way of the Warrior Saint, you're going to find a library, just a plethora, good word, plethora full of teachings that are going to help you become better men and better women, so that you can live in your marriage exactly as Paul and Christ are asking us to, crucifixionally. We've been grinded in our own lives. We've taken what we've learned from the Lord, and we've given it to you in a very practical and implementable form, so that you can get going today. I think it's time to get some. All you got to do, visit warriorsaints.org and subscribe. Love you. We're going to be back tomorrow. We'll wrap up the week. Until then, as always, keep walking on the way of the Warrior Saint.